guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm doing a little bit of a Christmas special video as requested, and I decided, since it's Christmas time and I've been working quite hard this year, I thought I would get myself a little present, a lock that I've been wanting for quite a while but just never got around to purchasing one, and it's one that I've seen quite a lot. There have been experienced lockpickers making videos on this lock, and they've all said that it's a really nice lock, and I'm pretty sure by the end of this video you will agree with that. This is the Yale series Y210C/51, and it is an absolutely gorgeous lock. At this time it's probably the nicest lock in my collection, to be honest. This lock cost about just under £25, but you can pick them up for £20. Absolutely incredible price for what you get. It's an absolute bargain. Now I go on about this all the time. There are a lot of locks out there that are not balanced, as I like to say. For example, you get locks like master locks, which are extremely difficult on the to break into. Physically they're very, very secure, but when it comes to core protection they are absolutely laughable. And then you get other locks such as the ABUS EC75, which has a very tough core, really difficult to pick, very advanced, but the bodies are just brass, open shackle, really easy to attack. Whereas this lock right here is an extremely well balanced lock. You get a really, really good package in this lock. By the way, this is CEN grade 3, and I will put a link down in the description where you can find a website that explains CEN ratings, and you can even look at a chart to see what tests were performed on this lock for it to get the requirements, and this lock even exceeds the requirements. And it's got some features in there that weren't required. It's not as if they've just put together a lock that just meets the requirements and no more. This is quite an amazing lock. Alright, so here's the packaging, and Yale call it the high security rating. Basically there are two locks that this falls between. You've got on the one hand the standard security brass body padlock with a plastic covering, which they call their standard security. This is high security. Then they've got their maximum security, which is, I believe it's steel body with a molybdenum shackle, the series Y300 I think it is. Really, really nice lock, but again, this is also a very cool lock, because what we've got here is a steel body with a nickel plating on it to keep it weather resistant. We've got a 9mm boron shackle, which is going to be very, very tough to cut. And down at the bottom here we have a, it comes as standard with a very tricky 5-pin core with a very restricted keyway. However, this core is the same core that they put in the maximum security lock that they sell. And so it's got a position for a 6th pin, so you could pin this up to 6 pins if you wanted that extra security. We get three keys with the lock, very generous, and unfortunately, because I bought the lock online, I had no control over choosing a suitable key, and so I ended up with probably what's one of the worst bittings you could possibly get. However, I'm very, very glad it wasn't any worse than this, because I have a hard enough time picking this lock as it is. My idea is possibly in the future to buy a 6-pin Yale lock, take the pins out of it, use the keys, and actually pin this up to 6 pins, and a more challenging bitting. Anyway, let's operate the lock, and it operates very, very nicely indeed. It is ball bearing locking. And it's rather unusual in the way that it works, because we've got a spring-loaded shackle, but the core itself, we've got a key retaining core, but it's non-spring loaded, so we actually have to hold the shackle in and turn the key back manually, which can get a little bit awkward. It is a two-handed operation. And one thing I haven't mentioned already is actually the rounding on this body. This is something that Yale have done with their more modern locks. There is an older version of this that was much more square. However, it's very rare to find locks that are as rounded as this, and I think it's a really good design because not only is it more comfortable to hold, but it's less likely to damage whatever you're locking it to, and it's also going to be harder for somebody to grip on there to potentially try a twisting attack. And by the way, this has undergone tests for twisting attack to get its CEN grade 3 rating. So overall, really nice. There's no rough edges anywhere that I could find. It's all been very nicely finished. Excellent work here. I'm yet to hear from Yale as to where this lock was made. I suspect it was China, but all the same it is absolutely excellent quality. Alright, so I think all that remains to be done is to pick this lock, or at least attempt to pick this lock and gut it and see what's inside. Alright, so I'm just going to clamp this up. Okay, so I've had quite a hard time with this keyway, to be honest. This is not like normally Yale keyways aren't too difficult, but this one is a genuine Yale keyway and it is very restrictive. Let me just show you. Trying to get a pick inside here, and you've actually got to kind of pick round the corner, and it becomes quite a challenge. So you'll probably see me changing picks and also changing my tensioning technique. Alright, so I'm just going to tension this from the top of the keyway. Let's see if we can get some focus here. So I'm going to start off with a southward lockpick, and I'm going to just try and set some of those pins. Most of them feel quite springy right now. We've got a click out of 2 and a slight turn on the core. We've got another click on 3 and we dropped into what feels like a deep false set. Counter rotation on 3. Just going to try setting some of those other pins in there. Oops, I've overset something, so I'm going to drop back down, and I have to say it's really easy to overset in this lock because of the shape of the key pins, which we shall see later on. Okay, so we're back into our false set. I just need to remember not to overset the last pins in the lock. I think everything's set. I'm going to counter rotation off pin 1, but what I'm going to do here is switch out my tensioning technique, and I'm going to go in there with a different, slightly stronger type of pick, and see if we can set pin number 1. Oh, and there we go. So we managed to overset pin 1, had to drop it back down, and we have got the lock open. So that's the gradual bitting we had. Pin number 1 is way up there, so we had to really shove the pin up and work around that twisted portion right at the top there. I have to say, I have practiced on this lock quite a lot, and it is by no means an easy lock to pick. Again, bearing in mind that I've ended up with probably the easiest bitting that is possible. Alright, so what I'm going to do is take this lock apart. I'm going to reset it and gut it using the keys because we've got them. And we can take this apart because we've got a screw hidden down here. So altogether, I have to say this is probably one of the best locks that Yale sell. It's like they've just given their all and put so much thought and design into this. So as you can see, we've got what looks to be a key and knob cylinder with a adapter piece, which is quite substantial. I think that's made from steel as well. The whole lock itself is very heavy. I don't think I mentioned that before, but being a steel body lock, it is very heavy. And being a brand new lock as well, it is covered in some sort of light oil. Looks like we've got a cap there that could potentially be removed. And the core itself is limited by that little, what looks to be the tailpiece. Quite a nice design. I'm just wondering, I think it would be quite difficult to adapt one of these key and knob cylinders to fit this. Just because you'd have to really put a lot of work into threading up putting holes in the back of it and threading it up so you could screw this tailpiece on. And another thing I discovered is in your ABUS 83 series locks, you'll find that the core is larger than the Bible, so the cylinder only goes in one way round, whereas this one looks like Yale used the same size of drill bit, and so the cylinder will go in either way. That did puzzle me when I first took the core out. You can put it in either way, but obviously it only works one way. Anyway, I'm getting slightly distracted. Okay, switch my screwdriver around and we'll try and take this apart. Looks like they've put some Loctite on the threads as well, so it shouldn't come loose by itself. Alright, pretty nice. Just going to grab this plug follower here and we'll see what we've got. There we go. Wow. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. We've got, looks like some oily marks there. I think, sadly, I think that's brass. That's kind of, I think it's tiny little bits of brass that have come off the pins from the picking and they've ended up in the oil there. It's a bit unusual. Anyway, as we can see, we've got a 5-pin core. And we've got an empty 6th chamber which could potentially be pinned up. And again, you could use this lock on your shed and pin this up the same as your house if you had Yale locks in your house. So we had to pick all the pins there. Very, very nice indeed. And another thing you'll notice is that we've got some steel anti-drill pins there, which is very hard to find in a padlock. Really, really nice. And it wasn't even required by the grade 3 requirements. You'll notice we've got a third pin position right there. Again, in the maximum security lock, you'll find that third pin third hole is populated. It's the same core that they use for the maximum security lock. They just put an extra pin in there and they fill up this 6th chamber as well. So I'm just going to drop these pins out. Right away you can tell we've got tapered key pins. Tweezers. Nice long steel drill protection pins there. Those are going to make somebody's life quite difficult. The other thing I did notice, I'm not sure of its purpose, is that little hole there on the side of the core. It's not even in line with the chambers. If it was, I would say that's for construction keying. We've actually got 2 of those, which are opposite each other, it looks like, but they don't go all the way through. So if anybody knows what those holes are, I would be interested to know myself. let's take a look at the key pins. So you might just be able to tell that the tops of those key pins are actually tapered, which means that it's quite easy just to overset them, which is what I ended up doing quite a few times. Alright, let's find out what's in top here. Pin number 1 is a deep spool, 2 is standard, 3 is a shorter spool, 4 is another spool, and 5 is yet another spool. Wow, so very difficult pick because of these deep spool pins we've got here. As we can tell, very deep and sharp pins as well. These were definitely not easy to pick. Very precisely made as well. So I have to say that is altogether a very nice setup, and even nicer lock overall. Very cool lock. I have to say I can highly recommend the Yale Y210C/51, an amazing package and amazing value for money as well. So guys, if you don't already have one, I recommend picking one of these up. They're very cool, and CEN grade 3 as well. So there we are. A big thank you to you guys for watching, and thank you to my friend Brian for recommending that I do a Christmas special. I don't suppose there's anything too special about this video. Maybe it's just unusual because I'm making a video at all. For that I must apologise. I haven't been making too many videos. But anyway, depending on whereabouts in the world you are and when I get this video published, I hope you either have or have had or are going to have a very nice Christmas, and I hope to see you again, if not this year then certainly next year. Thank you guys so much, and please leave your comments and your thoughts down below. I really do appreciate your comments. That's all for now, and I'll see you again soon.